All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into the world of property development.
Okay.
We're cracking open Steve Chandler's book,
Okay.
Property Development for Beginners,
Mm-hmm.
specifically looking at two excerpts
Right.
that really lay out his 5 fundamentals for success in this field.
Okay.
Um, you know, you've mentioned to me that you're super intrigued by property development,
Yes.
but it all seems a bit intimidating, right?
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming.
Like, where do you even begin?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Chandler's been doing this for 35 years,
Wow.
and he swears that even beginners can make it happen
Wow.
if they have the right knowledge and the right approach.
That's encouraging.
So one of the first things that he really emphasizes is starting small.
Okay.
He says it's not about diving headfirst into some massive skyscraper project.
Sure.
He actually uses the example of like renovating an apartment for a quick profit.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, just something to get your feet wet.
Yeah.
A way to kind of dip your toes in the water without risking everything.
Right.
I'm guessing that's probably more your speed at this point, right?
Yeah, definitely starting small sounds a lot less scary.
Exactly. And Chandler points out this approach is perfect for building your skills progressively.
Okay.
So, you don't need a fortune to get going. It's more about gradually leveling up your experience and your knowledge.
That makes a lot of sense.
So we're debunking the myth of needing millions to even get started.
Right, yeah, I like that.
So what's the next misconception that Chandler tackles?
Well, it's the idea that acquisition is all about buying property.
Build on not buying.
Yeah.
How does that even work?
So he introduces this concept called optioning.
Okay.
Basically, it's like securing the rights to buy a property later at a set price.
Okay.
So think of it as putting a reservation on it while you sort out all the details.
I see.
You get time to get approvals, find investors, finalize designs, all before you fully commit.
Okay, so you're not sinking your capital into something until you're absolutely certain it will work.
Exactly. It's a way to minimize the risk.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Is that where that story about John comes in?
Yes.
The guy who lost everything,
Yeah.
bounced back?
Yeah, that's him.
So John actually used optioning to rebuild his entire fortune.
He did.
Chandler explains how he was able to find investors and acquire properties without using any of his own money.
It's an incredible story.
And the best part is if your plans change, you can even sell that option to someone else for a profit.
Right. So you can actually make money just from having the option.
Wow, it's like having your cake and eating it too.
Exactly.
Okay, so optioning seems like a crucial tool to have in your arsenal.
Definitely.
But speaking of mitigating risk, I bet feasibility plays a big role in all this.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like trying to predict the future, right?
Yeah, it's about trying to see what's going to happen.
Make sure you're making smart decisions.
Well, feasibility studies, they're more like having a crystal ball that actually works.
Okay.
So Chandler outlines 3 different types.
All right.
First, there's the back-the-envelope version. And that's a really quick and dirty way to just see if a project even makes sense on a basic level.
Right.
Then there's the static feasibility, which goes a little bit deeper into the financials. Gives you a more detailed picture.
Okay.
And then finally, there's the cash flow feasibility study.
And I imagine that's where things get really granular.
Yes.
You're like projecting every dollar spent, every dollar earned.
Yeah, you're looking at the entire lifespan of the project.
So this gives you the clearest picture of your potential profit.
It does, but it requires really thorough research.
Okay.
You have to think about local market conditions, construction costs, potential rental income, if that's part of it.
Right. So it's not just about crunching numbers. It's about really understanding the whole ecosystem surrounding the project.
Exactly.
Okay.
And speaking of ecosystems, let's not forget about the authorities.
Oh, yeah.
Permits, approvals.
I know. Dealing with that can be a real headache.
It can be.
But Chandler offers a surprisingly positive perspective on this.
He does.
He even talks about building relationships with the authorities. Isn't that a bit counterintuitive?
It might seem that way, but he encourages us to see them as partners rather than obstacles.
I like that.
He suggests being proactive, providing comprehensive applications that anticipate their needs.
Okay, so instead of this kind of confrontational approach, it's more about collaborating.
Yeah.
To get things done efficiently.
Right.
Does he give any specific examples of how to do this?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
For instance, he mentions the importance of understanding the concerns of the local community. So if you address those concerns up front, you can actually smooth the approval process and prevent potential roadblocks.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's not just about ticking boxes.
Right.
It's about ensuring that the project actually benefits everyone involved.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about starting small, optioning feasibility,
Mm-hmm.
navigating the authorities.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about revenue. Obviously, this is the lifeblood of any development project, right?
Of course.
You got to make money.
You got to make money.
But Chandler goes beyond simply selling properties.
Oh, really?
I'm intrigued. What's his take on generating revenue?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of truly understanding your target market.
Okay.
And I'm not just talking demographics here.
Right.
You need to understand their needs, their aspirations, their financial capacity.
So it's about digging deeper than just age and income brackets.
Yeah.
It's about getting into the minds of your potential buyers
Exactly.
and crafting a development that speaks to their desires.
Absolutely.
Okay. And don't forget about your competition.
Right.
The book suggests researching your competitors, understanding their pricing, their marketing strategies to position your development for maximum appeal.
Yeah, because both buyers and investors are going to see the value
Right.
in a well-researched and thoughtfully planned project.
That makes sense. It's all about minimizing the perceived risk and maximizing the potential return. Okay, but even with a great product, how do you actually ensure that those revenue streams materialize?
So he calls them exit strategies.
Okay.
Basically, they're your plans for marketing and selling or leasing your properties. And having multiple options really demonstrates foresight.
Right.
It reduces your reliance on a single avenue for generating income.
Makes you less vulnerable.
Exactly. And investors love to see that kind of strategic thinking.
So having a well-defined exit strategy is as crucial as a solid foundation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got our revenue stream secured.
Right.
Now we arrive at the final and perhaps most tangible fundamental delivery.
Right.
This is where the vision becomes a reality, right?
Yes.
Talking construction contracts, timelines, actually building what you've promised.
It all comes down to execution.
It does. And this is where the choice of construction contract becomes a major factor.
It is.
Chandler points out that this decision can have a significant impact on your project's timeline and your costs. It's fascinating to me. It's like every step of the process has these hidden layers of complexity.
It does.
So what kind of contracts does he recommend considering?
So he outlines the key differences between traditional contracts, which tend to have a fixed price, but often longer timelines,
Okay.
and design and construct contracts,
Okay.
which offer more flexibility but might come with a higher price tag.
I see.
So it's about weighing the pros and cons and choosing what aligns best with your project goals and your risk tolerance.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all.
No.
It's about understanding the nuances of each type of contract
Yes.
and making an informed decision based on your specific circumstance.
Exactly.
And it goes beyond just signing on the dotted line, right?
It does.
Chandler stresses the importance of having a clear process in place for handling any defects or issues that arise during construction.
Oh, absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, having a system for addressing those issues up front can prevent some major headaches and costly delays down the line.
It definitely can.
All right, so this has been quite a journey
It has.
through just the first four fundamentals.
Right.
And we've already covered so much ground.
We have.
It's amazing how much depth there is to each of these concepts.
Yeah.
I feel like we've only scratched the surface, and I'm already feeling more confident about navigating the world of property development.
That's great to hear.
But I know there's still so much more to explore.
There is.
So in part 2, we're going to delve deeper into how these fundamentals interact
Okay.
and influence each other
Yeah.
to provide even more actionable insights for you.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned.
All right.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
Okay.
Okay, so we're back and ready to keep digging into these property development fundamentals.
Yeah, it's amazing how much we unpacked in just those first 4.
I know.
From optioning properties
Yeah.
to navigating the world of construction contracts. It's clear there's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
It really is. And I've started to see how each piece of the puzzle fits together.
Yeah.
But I'm eager to understand how they influence and inform each other throughout the entire process.
Right. Well, let's start by thinking back to acquisition.
Okay.
We discussed how optioning can be a great strategy for securing properties, but it's not a decision you make in isolation.
Right. It's not like you just stumble upon a property and say, oh, I'll option that.
Exactly.
There has to be a deeper level of analysis involved.
Yeah, this is where feasibility comes into play.
Okay.
You wouldn't option a property without first conducting at least a preliminary feasibility study to assess its potential.
So feasibility acts as a filter, helping you decide whether a property is even worth pursuing further.
Precisely. And remember those 3 types of feasibility studies we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, the type of study you conduct will depend on the stage of the acquisition process.
Okay.
Early on, a back-of-the-envelope analysis might be enough to gauge basic viability.
Right.
But as you get closer to making a decision, a more detailed cash flow feasibility study would be crucial.
Makes sense to gradually increase the depth of your analysis as you move forward.
Yeah, you don't want to invest a ton of time and resources into a full-blown feasibility study
Right.
for a property that might not even be a good fit.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the authorities.
Oh yeah, they're always there.
Their role extends beyond just approvals and permits.
Right, zoning regulations, building codes, environmental restrictions.
All of those can significantly impact both acquisition and feasibility.
Absolutely, it's like a three-way dance
I like that.
between acquisition feasibility and the authorities.
Each one influencing the others.
Yeah,
And you have to be mindful of all three throughout the process.
you got it. And remember Chandler's advice about building relationships with the authorities.
Yeah.
That's especially important during this stage.
So true.
Engaging early, proactively, addressing any concerns can make the entire process smoother and more efficient.
It sounds like being transparent and collaborative is key.
It is, but I understand why you might be hesitant.
Yeah, I was going to say, wouldn't being too upfront with the authorities potentially create more hurdles or scrutiny?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But Chandler argues that honesty and openness ultimately build trust
Okay.
by proactively addressing potential issues.
Yeah.
You're demonstrating your commitment to a successful and responsible development, and that can go a long way in gaining their support.
That makes sense. It's about striking a balance between being thorough but also strategic in your interactions.
Right.
Now, how does revenue fit into this intricate dance between these fundamentals?
Well, remember Chandler's emphasis on deeply understanding your target market?
Yeah.
Well, that understanding is crucial for shaping your acquisition and feasibility decisions.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to acquire a property or pursue a development that doesn't align with market demand or generate sufficient revenue.
So you're saying that revenue considerations should be baked into the process right from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
It's not just about building something and hoping people will buy it.
No, it's about identifying a need or a desire in the market
Right.
and then crafting a development that fulfills that need
Yeah.
while generating a profit.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together like a puzzle.
Good.
You need a viable project. You need to secure the right property. You need to work with the authorities. And ultimately, it all has to lead to a profitable outcome.
You're getting it. And that's where delivery comes in.
Okay.
The final fundamental to
Yeah.
tie everything together.
So it's the execution phase,
It is.
where the vision outlined in the feasibility study, approved by the authorities, desired by the target market, becomes a reality.
It does a well-executed delivery phase, ensures that you meet your obligations to investors,
Yeah.
satisfy the needs of your target market,
Right.
and ultimately achieve the goals you set out in the initial acquisition and feasibility stages.
This is making me realize that property development is much more than just buying and selling buildings.
It is.
It's a complex ecosystem
Right.
with interconnected elements that all need to be carefully considered and managed.
That's a fantastic insight. And just like any ecosystem, there are constant changes and challenges to navigate.
Right.
Market conditions fluctuate, regulations evolve, unforeseen obstacles arise.
Ugh, yeah, that's life.
That's why flexibility and adaptability are so crucial in this field.
It sounds like you need to be comfortable with a certain level of uncertainty
Yeah,
and be able to adjust your plans as needed.
absolutely. But how do you balance that flexibility with the need for a solid plan and clear goals?
Right, because you can't just be flying by the seat of your pants the whole time.
You can't. That's where experience, knowledge, and strong relationships come into play.
Okay.
The more you learn about the industry,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to anticipate potential challenges and make informed decisions.
Okay, so we've explored how the first four fundamentals all kind of work together. But something tells me there's even more to uncover, especially when it comes to actually putting this knowledge into action.
Yeah.
Like, let's go back to acquisition for a second.
Okay.
We've talked about optioning as a really powerful strategy,
Right.
but finding those opportunities in the first place can feel a bit like a mystery.
You can't.
It's like something that only seasoned developers with all the insider connections
Right.
would even know about. So how does someone just starting out even begin to find properties to option?
Well, it might surprise you, but it's not as exclusive as it sounds.
Right.
Networking is key.
Okay.
Attending industry events, building relationships with real estate agents, even just chatting with other developers
Yeah.
can open doors to these off-market opportunities
Right.
that you wouldn't find otherwise.
So it's about being proactive and building those relationships.
Absolutely.
It's not about just sitting back and waiting for the perfect deal to fall into your lap.
Exactly. You got to go out there and hustle a little bit.
Okay, but even when you find a potential opportunity,
Right.
it's crucial to do your due diligence. Chandler emphasizes thoroughly researching zoning regulations,
Yeah.
understanding any potential environmental concerns,
Yeah.
even gauging the local community's attitude towards development,
That's a good one.
because you don't want to jump into a deal,
Right.
only to discover a bunch of hidden obstacles down the road.
No, you don't.
Could turn a promising opportunity into a financial nightmare.
100%.
Okay, so feasibility is checked off our list.
All right.
How about navigating the world of authorities?
Yeah.
I'll admit that part still makes me a little nervous.
I get it.
But remember, it doesn't have to be this dreaded experience.
Right.
Chandler's emphasis on collaboration really shines here.
It does.
He suggests engaging with the authorities early on,
Mm-hmm.
being transparent about your plans,
Yeah.
proactively addressing any concerns that they might have.
It's a much better approach.
It sounds like a much more respectful and productive approach
Yes.
than this kind of adversarial relationship
Right.
that some developers seem to have with regulators.
Exactly. And it often leads to a smoother and more efficient approval process.
Okay.
And consider this, communities often have specific needs or concerns. If your development addresses those needs, it's more likely to gain support and face fewer roadblocks.
So it's not just about meeting the bare minimum requirements.
does.
It's about creating something that actually benefits the community
Right.
and earns their buy-in.
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of buy-in, let's talk about revenue.
Right.
Chandler really stresses the importance of going beyond simple demographics
Yes.
to truly understand your target market.
Right.
He talks about the difference between needs and wants.
Mm-hmm.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So a family might need a 3-bedroom home.
Right.
That's a basic need.
Yeah.
But they might want a spacious kitchen, a home office, a backyard for entertaining.
Those are wants.
Those are their wants, exactly.
Okay.
And by understanding those wants,
Yeah.
you can create a development that truly resonates with potential buyers and commands a premium price.
So it's about adding those extra touches that elevate a property from just functional to desirable.
Right, even aspirational.
Yeah, aspirational. I like that.
You want people to see it and think, I have to live there.
Exactly.
And those desirable features can often translate into higher revenue.
And remember those exit strategies?
Yes.
Having multiple options for selling or leasing your properties not only reduces your risk, but also demonstrates that foresight and strategic thinking
Right.
to potential investors.
Exactly. It shows you've really thought things through.
Makes sense you're not relying on a single avenue for success.
Right.
Okay, finally, let's talk about delivery.
Right.
Chandler points out that the choice of construction contract can have a huge impact on your projects.
Yeah, it's a critical decision for sure.
We touched on the difference between traditional and design and construct contracts. What are some other key considerations when choosing a contract?
Well, clarity is paramount.
Okay.
Make sure the contract clearly outlines the scope of work, payment terms, timelines, any contingencies.
Right.
Don't be afraid to negotiate clauses that protect your interests,
Okay.
like penalties for delays,
Yeah.
or a really robust defect rectification process.
So it's about being proactive
Yes.
and ensuring that everything is crystal clear from the outset.
Right. You don't want to leave any room for misinterpretations or disagreements
No, you don't.
down the line.
And during construction, maintaining open communication with your contractors is key.
It is regular site visits, progress reports.
Yeah.
Open dialogue can help prevent misunderstandings
Right.
and keep the project running smoothly.
Wow. This has been an incredible journey.
It has.
We've gone from feeling kind of intimidated by property development
Right.
to
Yeah.
feeling empowered with knowledge
Yeah.
and practical strategies.
Hopefully.
I'm starting to see the potential here.
That's great.
There's money to be made,
There is.
but more importantly, there's the satisfaction of creating something tangible
Absolutely.
and leaving your mark on the world.
And that's really rewarding.
And here's a final thought from Chandler that really stuck with me.
Okay.
He says, even if you only master one of these fundamentals today, you'll be ahead of the game. But the real magic happens when you understand how they all connect and influence each other.
That's a great quote.
It's not about checking boxes. It's about understanding the interconnectedness of these principles
Mm,
and applying them holistically.
that's the key.
And remember, we've only scratched the surface here.
Right.
There's a wealth of resources out there for you to continue exploring.
Absolutely.
This book mentions some fantastic online resources.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe we'll even do a follow-up deep dive
We could.
on specific aspects of property development based on your interests.
I'd be happy to do that.
All right, well, thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.
Sounds good.